Queer Stories event. We are the GSA Club with President Arpana Kumar. And Ms. Kovacs, the humble advisor to all of the awesomeness that is our GSA. I'm going to hand over to Arpana.
Hello, everyone! Wow, no excitement. Okay. It's all nice to see you here today. Before our first speaker, let's talk about how this event came to be. Back in December, after Ms. Kovacs and I attended the YAS conference at the San Mateo School District, and met with so many amazing people that we're going to meet a few of them today. We came up with this idea of holding Mills' first ever LGBTQ plus TedTalk, in which we could bring more awareness into our community about the LGBTQ community.
This isn't actually a TED Talk. Don't tell TED Talk.
Okay, we certainly didn't know if we could pull it off, but here we are.
So after months of hard work and hopefully a step in the right direction for Mills, we are proud to present Queer Stories. Please keep in mind that we want this to be a completely safe environment for everyone to learn and ask questions and be themselves. So if at any time you feel like you need a moment and need to step out, we'll be talking about some pretty deep issues. Please feel free to do so and come back when you're ready. We will also have some tissue boxes in the audience. If you, back there, Megan is waving some tissue boxes should the need arise. Our first speaker for today comes from the LGBTQ plus Community Outreach Office of Diversity and Equity based in San Mateo County. So please give a warm welcome to Annette J. Hoptrain.
Wow, look at this spread. You're definitely in high school, huh? You got like in the corner. I love you for. Yeah. No worries. I'll make text. I'll give it. Girl, this is slow. This is one second. Well, there we go. All right, so like Arpana said, my name is Annette J. Hoptrain. My pronouns are she, her, hers, they, them, theirs. Actually, I work in the Office of Diversity and Equity within San Mateo County's Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. Long name, just to say that I'm in this new position. It's the first time our county's had an LGBTQ outreach worker. And I want to tell you a little bit about what I do, also a little bit about the folks that I work with across the county to provide support to the queer community. So if y'all have any questions, you might want to stand up because I can't really see everybody. So let's just keep on going. So this is my spirit right here. So a little bit about what I do. I'm a social worker by background, and y'all maybe have come across talking about different levels of systems. So there's like a micro level one-on-one, meso, where we talk about groups, people, and then macro, greater structures, right? So that's what my job looks like for the queer community. So one thing I do is I connect LGBTQ community members with services that actually know how to work with people. I consult with providers across the health system and the county to help them learn how to work better for people. So that means giving trainings, presentations, to anywhere from folks at the medical center, doctors, to people all the way to correctional health, which is what we call jails, right? And then I also assist programs with all the different policy changes that we've been having for the queer community, just to let people know, you know, this is now how we need to provide the services that we give. So the other fun things I get to do is I get to organize for Pride every year for Trans Day of Remembrance. So if y'all ever come out to those events, this year San Mateo County Pride is going to be on June 15th. Mateo Central Park. So definitely come out to that. And then I'll tell you a little bit about. I think I can hear me over that. Can you hear me? Okay, that's good. So I'm going to tell you about some of the groups that we have in San Mateo County that are doing this really great organizing work here. One of which is the San Mateo County Pride Initiative. So the Pride Initiative started actually out of my office, Office of Diversity and Equity. And so we really focus on what it looks like for queer people to receive appropriate mental health and recovery services, so substance use recovery services. And we talk about this in ways that we want to actually impact the system. When our county did trainings across different parts of our health system for sexual orientation and gender identity, the Pride Initiative did a lot of the work to create those trainings. And we also, the Pride Initiative is also the group that does a lot of organizing for the annual Pride celebration, along with some other groups that I'll tell you a little bit about. So we always want to see more youth at the group, so if y'all are interested in coming out, tell a friend. The meetings always take place at the Pride Center every second Wednesday, 4:30 to 6. You can also get in touch with us. We've got the contacts here. I'm going to send the start on us, so you can send it out as well. And that way, if you can't make it to the meeting, there's always ways to get involved. So this is a super fun group to join. And you hear a little bit about what else is going on in the county with other groups that we're organizing as well. So we also have the County San Mateo LGBTQ Commission. So this group is really special because it's the first and, as far as I know, the only commission for the LGBTQ community across California. And what it means is that this group formally provides recommendations to our board of supervisors that really makes our local county laws, right? And so they try to bring greater visibility to our community. They work on reducing any sort of disparities that we have by, you may have received a youth survey, LGBTQ survey, as well as we sent out one for adults. And just really looking at what policies that our board of supervisors can promote for our community here. And so we also have a number of different youth conversations that the LGBTQ Commission has been hosting. We just had one at East Palo Alto. We really just want to hear from the youth in our county to really see what's working, what's missing, how can we really provide more support for the youth, the queer youth in our county. So the EPA one was really well attended. It was, I believe, last week. I was on vacation, I don't know. But we have another one that's coming up May 7th in Half Moon Bay. I put out some flyers in the front you can check out. And then we're also looking to host one in North County. So if y'all can help suggest a place, that would be fantastic. And this group meets first Tuesday, 6:30 to 8:30. The folks who are part of the commission are voted in, and I know that there's open spaces right now. And you can also come and make a public comment so they can kind of take your thoughts, what you're looking for in this county, and reflect it back to folks like the board of supervisors. Lo and behold, the San Mateo County Pride Center. I'm hoping that some of y'all in this room have been there, have attended some of their amazing groups. The Pride Center is one that just opened in June 2017. It's really something that is kind of unlike the LGBT centers that you see across California, across the country really, because what we have at our Pride Center is it's not just social programming and groups and events like that, but we also have clinical services. So as a queer person who has struggled with mental health challenges, with depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff, I know that it's really hard to find a clinician that actually gets you as a queer person. And so what you get when you go to the Pride Center is you get a whole clinical staff. You get individual therapy, you get support groups, and there's also so many awesome social events. The Comedy Fiesta, I think, is one of my favorite ones. It's like every third Friday. And we got a whole resource library, just a really cool place to also come and just hang out. You can drop in anytime that they're open. And I got a flyer up there that shows all the different youth youth programs and youth services that are through the Pride Center as well as Outlet. So, in the youth programming at the Pride Center is done through Outlet, which y'all may be familiar with as well. Talk a little bit about that. All right. And then what I got here is a little bit about the groups that I already mentioned. The tree in the middle, that's my office. So we work across the system to really kind of make the system of care and health system, specifically within behavioral health recovery services, equitable to all people. As we know, one size does not fit all for the services that we receive. So also have a few things, some of which are like, why is there a church up there, right? So the only reason I have Congregational Church of San Mateo up here, not only are they a really affirming congregation, but they've been providing asylum to trans folks who are undocumented and are at risk of deportation. So there's always services out there, maybe a little bit more than we know above the surface. And we have Outlet here, like I mentioned, Outlet provides programs, the youth programming at the Pride Center. They also have their own location. They provide drop-in groups. You can get clinical services through them. They have some really amazing groups, especially the trans youth group. And then down here, we got San Mateo Medical Center. Every month on the fourth Friday, they have a gender care clinic. And so that's for folks who may identify as trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming, that are interested in some form of medical affirmative procedures. So if folks are interested in getting involved with the gender care clinic, you'll be able to click on this and email the social worker that kind of heads it up there, or you can get in touch with me and I can help you get on that list, because they do have a wait list from time to time. The last thing on here, CORE. So CORE is Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse. So they are a really awesome organization, and I think kind of a model for the queer community in San Mateo County, because they are a nonprofit that, on their own, without any sort of obligation, they apply for a grant so they can make their own LGBTQ program within their organization. And so they have an LGBTQ clinical victim advocate, Sagarika, who's awesome. Honestly, she should come and talk to the GSA here. They got a group that they can offer that's kind of like survivors of intimate partner violence for queer folks. And the safe house that they have is open to all genders and people of all sexual orientations, which is not only not common in our county, but across the country when it comes to providing shelter for folks who are experiencing domestic violence. So, let me see. Yeah, outside of this, one thing that I always like to say to people, because my position is in this county, and it's kind of like, what, other than all the things that I just mentioned, what I can do, I like to keep an open door. I know that, it's not always the case that you always feel like you can reach out to services, you can reach out to anything, especially as a queer person. We have a much higher likelihood of experiencing mental health challenges and substance use and stuff like that. And the big barrier too is also accessing services where they're actually understand you. So I have an open door policy. People can always contact me. As I said, I'll send these slides out so people have my info. And it doesn't even have to be about services necessarily of that nature. Just if you want to get connected at all to the queer community, let me know what you're looking for. And I can give you an idea of at least who to talk to, if not exactly the type of resource that you're looking for. And also that wherever you're at in your process, if you do identify as queer, you're golden. Don't worry about, I know there's a lot of stress, especially when you're high school aged or you're in youth. And there's a lot of pressures of, is this going to work within my family system, within my friend system? Where am I going to find people like myself? Well, there's a whole lot of people here in the county, especially at the LGBT Center, and I think that the important thing to know is your process, and whichever way that you come around it, that's how it's going to be. I say that because, I've been working within queer queer community as an organizer for about 13 years now. And the very first thing that I did by accident really was started JSA. And this was at my community college in a part of Los Angeles that did not have resources. I just needed something for myself. And I found a bunch of people who needed the same thing. And even though I've been out to all of my friends and, since for 16 years now, and working in the community for 13 years, it took me until this year to actually come out to my family. And that wasn't a thing about shame or fear or anything like that. I had fear of survival. Yeah, that's true. But what it really was is that the coming out narrative doesn't always work for every culture. Not every culture is just, you come out and that's when you're prideful and that's when you totally accept yourself. You can do that prior to coming out to your family, for example, especially if your family's from a culture that's not so accepting of it. But the important thing to know is that there's always spaces for you, even if your home space isn't that comfortable. So if anybody ever wants to talk about that, or as a friend that may be able to benefit from talking to somebody who gets it, feel free to get in touch, okay? And I think that's it. You're welcome. Does anybody have a question? Anything you want to say? So far away.
When was the San Mateo Pride in Central Park?
San Mateo Pride is June 15th. It's going to be June 15th to Saturday, 11 to 5 at San Mateo Central Park. And if you want to organize, let me know. Anybody? Find them in the back. Okay. All right, thank you so much. No?
All right, it's okay. Can we give a round of applause for that? If you have any other questions or anything, you can reach out to them or see her after this event, possibly. Yeah? Okay. All right. So we're gonna move along to our next speaker for today. Let me escape this. Sorry, technology is a hassle. So our next speaker today comes from the San Francisco Unified School District. Please give a warm welcome to Eric Martinez.
Good afternoon, everybody. Buenas tardes. Or as they say in the sacred language of my people, hi. It's been a long day for a lot of folks, so if you are a student and been going to school all day, please rise. Take a stand. Stand up. You've been a student going to school all day. Although people did go to school, I'm seeing you. If you are an adult ally, maybe you're a parent or a teacher, or you work here, or another school site, please stand. Okay, if you are a body in this room, please rise. Everyone should be on their feet. Let's do some shoulder rolls. Everyone do some shoulder rolls, get that energy flowing. And pat yourself on the back for being here. I think one of the first steps of being an LGBT ally is showing up. So thank you all for showing up and give yourselves a round of applause. My name is Eric Martinez. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'm the manager for LGBTQ support services in San Francisco Unified. I'm going to give you tell you a little bit about me, talk a little bit about our program, but I also want to share kind of our vision for the program. I'm really lucky. I think anyone who does LGBT work and gets paid for it is really lucky. There aren't enough opportunities in the Bay Area, in the States, or in the country to do this work. So as you think about kind of your career trajectories, kind of where you want to go to college, think about how you can incorporate allyship and solidarity into the work that you're doing. So San Francisco Unified, so our program has been in existence since 1990, so we're approaching pretty much 30 years. And for anyone who knows kind of the history of youth programming, a lot of youth programs, or programs for LGBT youth, are actually getting close to about 30 or just turned over 30 years old. And the reason for that is because historically, the needs of LGBT youth weren't always seen as separate or distinct from adults. As a community, we were kind of lumped in together and seen as only having a specific set of needs. And it wasn't until about the late 80s, early 90s, when a report from Massachusetts came out. It was a groundbreaking report that studied suicide rates among young people. And what this report found was that gay and lesbian students were more likely to think about it and to make attempts than their straight counterparts. And that was really a historical moment within LGBT work. And it really motivated organizations and communities around the country to really think about how are we supporting our young people, both in schools and our community. So in San Francisco, like in LA and New York and other places around the country, adults and adult allies started to mobilize and create programs. So in San Francisco, our LGBT, or actually at the time it was called Support Services for Gay Youth, was created. And within the first year of the program, the folks who worked the program quickly realized that it wasn't just gay youth who were having an issue. And in fact, that it wasn't the gay youth who were having the issue. It was the system, right? The schools, the administrators were doing a really poor job of responding to the needs of our LGBT students. In fact, our students were fine, but they were being impacted by the attitudes and negativity, the homophobia, the transphobia of adults, and the people who were allegedly responsible for these students at their school sites. So quickly, after 1990, the program evolved to include lesbian youth, bisexual youth, later on trans youth, and as the acronym grows, so does the scope of our work. So here is kind of just a quick snapshot of some of the resolutions that our SFUSD board policy, or school district, Board of Education, has written to support and affirm our LGBT students. And really, what those resolutions do is really fall within a few buckets. It's our responsibility, not just in San Francisco Unified, but in school districts and schools, public schools in particular, across the state, to make sure that the schools are safe and affirming. We're not just responding to bullying, all of our students should know how to report bullying, but there are opportunities within the school day to learn about inclusive curriculum, right? We're talking about history, we're talking about social science, in particular health and sexual health education, that we're really affirming all of our students' identities. So as students come to an awareness of us, or come to awareness of their identities and sharing their specified name or pronoun, that we're really supporting all of our students. That we're giving equal access to facilities, right? That we're really moving away from a binary when we think about the ways in which schools are built, right? Locker rooms, bathrooms are becoming more inclusive to students who whose identities are now outside the binary. And in fact, in California, we now recognize a legal third gender, which is non-binary. And that students also have the right to be out and the right to privacy. So again, as young people, as you come to awareness of your identity, that it's really you who's kind of telling us as adults who we can share that with, what this identity means to you, and working together to figure out how we can best support you for you to be safe, healthy, and ready to learn. Now, as a person who works in our central office, I get quite a few calls during the school year, how to support schools when students come out either as trans or queer, or maybe any issues coming out to the school site. And I typically ask folks 3 questions, or school administrators 3 questions. My first question is, how often, when was the last training that all the adults at the school received around how to be responsive to the needs of LGBT students, right? So our adults can only be as successful as the training that they've received, right? Just like us, Yeah, you know, it's like us as young people, I'm 36. I used to be young, so imagine me young. So just like how students should be given the opportunity to learn and grow while they're in school, adults should be given the same opportunity as well. If we really want adults and staff to show up as allies, we really need to give them the tools, the training, and the information and background for them to show up a lot better for everybody. The other question I typically ask is how consistently are students given the opportunity to explore, to reflect on, and envision what queer and transness, it's not an actual word, means for them, others, and the future. I think oftentimes we talk a lot about the importance of LGBT history, and I think that's really foundational that every school incorporate LGBT history and historical figures in their schools. But our community is beyond our history, right? To envision the future of social justice, to move us beyond just hurt and talk about the oppression that we face, we also have to think about how do we want to heal as a community and really move towards love. And I think to do that, we need to provide students an opportunity, and kind of a menu of opportunities for students to not just learn about history, but to think about what does this mean for me right now, and what might this mean for me in my future. And then lastly, how are messages of LGBT diversity and solidarity integrated into school culture, school-wide events or celebrations, right? So I know a few of you are seniors, you're probably taking senior photos, or maybe a bunch of you are thinking about prom, right? So how are we celebrating LGBT couples when we think about prom, right? For students who have non-conforming gender expression, right? So the gender expression falls outside of what is kind of stereotypical for their gender. How are we affirming and celebrating all students to show up in the way that shows up, in the way that makes them feel authentic, right? All of these celebrations that happen at school sites are opportunities to change kind of our understanding of what it means to be LGBT, and also promote health and happiness for all of our students. So here's just a little bit of data. So we're lucky in San Francisco Unified to actually survey our students every other year. And the last time we surveyed our students, we asked how often do you experience being bullied at school? And nationally, on average, about 34% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual students report being bullied at school, in high school in particular. In San Francisco Unified, it's 22%. So it is lower than the national average, and I'll just quickly talk about some of the things that we do in San Francisco Unified, but it's still there, right? What 22% means is basically somewhere between 1 out of every 5, 1 out of every 4 students reports being bullied. And I would say 1 is too much, right? No student should be bullied at their school site, regardless of their identity. So in our school district, we think about services in kind of 3 levels. The first level is kind of what supports and education are available to all students, which is universal. The second one is targeted, so as students come to know their identity, they start identifying as LGBTQ, kind of what supports we provide them. And then if students need in particular support or a high level of need, how do we support all of them? Now, I'm not going to go through all of this, it's a lot of boring text. But some of the steps to pay attention to, like I said earlier, so tier 1 is how are we being inclusive of all of our students in curriculum, and how are we celebrating students, or including LGBT inclusive diversity messages in school-wide events across elementary, middle, and high school. So we're doing this not just in high school, not just in elementary, not just middle, but also elementary. Because we recognize in our school system, and I'm sure it is true here, that you also have a lot of students coming from LGBT families, right? To parents of the same gender, or a parent who is trans. So last year, we reported like 73 inclusive events happened in our district, and they kind of range from kind of events like this, also events where GSAs, like Genders and Sexualities Alliances, are tabling at their school, or full-on drag shows. Although there aren't a lot of schools that do drag shows, as anyone who's ever worked with a drag queen knows that their drag queens are a lot of work. And they usually don't get it before noon, right? They're very rare before you. Here are some kind of pictures of what some of those events look like and what our GSAs do to spread messages of solidarity and support. Of the far upper right, you'll see that the GSA even posts a calendar of events for the whole school to see, so everyone knows what opportunities they have to, not just to show up and support, but also kind of what they want to engage in. One of our other GSAs looked at solidarity and advocacy across multiple groups, and actually had a bulletin board across from their office to show kind of what the values of the school look like. So on top of kind of like all of those big events, we also support multiple student groups. So just like this school, we have GSAs in a lot of our high schools and middle schools, but we also recognize that because GSAs are very public, not all LGBT students want to go to GSAs. So we actually have support groups in our middle schools and high schools that have been really successful, that are often led by other queer and trans adults. And we also have annual GSA days for middle school and high school. And these are days when we bring together clubs across from San Francisco for a day of celebration and learning. And that happens in the fall for middle school, and then in the spring. It actually just happened last week for high school. And then we also have student leaders who are, we call it QTAC, or Queer Trans Advisory Council, who actually plan these events for our students. And these pictures here actually show you what we've been doing at the high school level for a few years now. We actually bring GSA leaders together through a whole day of training on how to run a GSA, kind of what social justice looks like, how to start planning for the school year. And we do this early on. And actually that training has been really impactful for our students. The last school year, one GSA actually wrote a manifesto. And let me tell you, my favorite thing is to get a panicked email from an administrator or principal saying, oh my God, my students know their rights. What do I do? What you should do is support your students, right? So they wrote this really beautiful manifesto, and we actually spread it to all of our GSAs. And the GSA was so successful that they actually got this mural on the right painted on one of their school walls in support of the trans community. It was actually really amazing. So like I mentioned, we have a group of students who actually lead and kind of consult our work, especially our events. And they are an amazing group of folks. The picture in the middle, we have the House of Energy. So anyone who's ever seen maybe an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, or even the documentary Paris is Burning, may know a little bit about drag and ball culture, which is a dance specific to LGBT communities of color. It came out of Black and Latino communities in New York, and that is still really popular today, so we do workshops on that for our students, and they were really feeling themselves when they took that picture. And we also work with UCSF to make sure all of our social workers and nurses feel supported and that they're doing the best to support all of our students. And we also have a huge range of community partners. It takes a community to do this work. No one person can do this work alone. So always look for allies, always look for people who are going to be your accomplices, or who will work in solidarity with you to change an institution, because it does take a community. And with that, I am done. Just a quick overview. I'm Eric Martinez, he, him, so let me know if you have any questions. Don't be shy.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I heard you guys do drag shows.
Yes, some of our schools do drag shows. So yes, you can definitely do drag shows here. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how students created those, where they have them, and what that process looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically what a GSA does is they identify kind of what are the opportunities. And they usually have like an adult advisor or a really, really rad school principal or vice principal that they work with. And they decide to maybe do an assembly. during the school day, so maybe for like a period. And then the GSA will then work with their advisors to figure out kind of like, what do you want to do during that like 45, maybe 40 minutes, because usually it takes people quite, it takes everyone some time to get in and get settled. So about 40 minutes of an assembly is actually a pretty short amount of time. From there they decide kind of what the agenda will be, usually like introductions, maybe they'll send invitations out to other student groups who might want to show up to be allies. There's a dance troupe, kind of ask who around the school wants to participate, so then that way the GSA doesn't have to do everything by themselves. And then depending on if an adult or staff member has like connection to a drag queen that talking to that drag queen and letting them know kind of like what the event is about, what's appropriate and not appropriate to do at a school, because what happens at a nightclub should probably not be happening at a school site. Very different audience. With the messaging, then the drag dragon can come out. And I think it can be really powerful, especially for dragons to come out to schools and share their stories about what being LGBT means for them and what does it mean to be drag. Because I think in many ways drag is still an art form that is the tool for advocacy.
How do you get your school administrators on board? So it's great that you have relationships with GSAs and certain staff, but if the principal or vice principal isn't on board, like, how do you get them sort of leading the charge for a school?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that's important in this work is, I think, acknowledging kind of like what is the baseline school policy. Or, I'm sorry, the Board of Education. I think a lot of administrators, there are different ways in which school principals are moved to action. Sometimes it is GSAs and students telling their stories, kind of coming from the heart. Sometimes it's data, kind of like what I mentioned earlier about the impacts that homophobia has on students. And for some administrators, it's acknowledging that every time a student feels bullied and doesn't come to school, that is impacting your school budget, and that's less money for your school. And some administrators are motivated by not being sued. So it's really finding what works for your school principal and kind of messaging, and also like keeping at it. Never accept a no. I think GSA should always continue to advocate. Even when they find that they're not getting a lot of support from principals.
You were talking about LGBT kids' needs and how schools might not be giving that, addressing them. What is it different that are exclusive to LGBT kids?
Yeah, I think what we see in data and just based on studies is that because of the oppression and marginalization that LGBT community faces, especially young people, is that oftentimes they report higher rates of thinking about suicide, making suicide attempts. If they're feeling rejection at home or violence at school, they may be more likely to use substances to deal and to cope with that rejection. Also, when people are hurt, they hurt people closest to them. And so we also see a lot of relationship violence within LGBT couples, right? Because they haven't seen or witnessed healthy LGBT relationships because we deny them access to that information when we talk about healthy relationships in schools. Or when we don't talk about LGBT families in elementary, we never plant the seed of well, this is what an LGBT family could look like that's healthy and functioning. And those are just some examples. Cool. So I'm going to transition us to the next speaker, but I'll be around if you have any other questions. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you so much to Eric. Let's give him one more round of applause. I know that Mills still has a far way to go before we have completely integrated all of the wonderful ideas that Eric was talking about, things like teaching LGBTQ history and incorporating space for reflection and expression within the school, but today is a great first step. So, how's everyone doing? I feel like we got that nice big shoulder rolls with Eric, but I feel like it's time for us to get up and stretch a little bit, so I'm going to require that everyone gets up and sits in a different seat that they were sitting in before. Everybody up.
Could we make sure that everyone just kind of moves down to this area?
You can go to the front, stop hiding in the back.
We don't bite, I promise.
Yeah.
Everybody move up forward. I know you're comfortable
I
back
can leave back there. Victoria is a cat. I can use
Thank you, we appreciate it.
I love your opponent. We're your biggest fans.
Okay. While everyone stretches, we should also, we would like to also remind everyone that this Friday, April 12th, is Day of Silence. For those who don't know what Day of Silence is, it's an annual day of action to spread awareness about the effects of bullying and harassment of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning students. Students take a day-long vow of silence to symbolically represent the silencing of LGBTQ students. So, if you're a middle student and would like to be interested in taking part in Day of Silence, please visit the GSA table during lunch tomorrow and Thursday to sign up so we can let your teachers know that you're participating. Thank you.
All right. Oh, no, not yet. First, I would like to introduce our next speaker. So we are really honored today to have James Bezades from Aragon High School. And he is the GSA president over at Aragon, and he is going to be telling you about his story. So, James, come on.
Is this on? Yeah, it's on. Yeah. Give it a second. What's happening with this mouse? Oh. There we go. Okay. Hey everybody, as I said, my name is James Bezades. I'm the president at Aragon High School. And I have something written down because I have a memory of a goldfish. And memory lines was never my calling. So I totally missed out on the theater kid thing. But I have so much. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and a little bit about what I do. And you're going to see cute pictures of me. It's going to be fun. So unlike some of the other people here today, I am not in college. I don't do a bunch of volunteering at some LGBT place. I just turned 18. I'm currently finishing my senior year in high school and plan to follow my passion for photography at California College of Arts next year. So to be here, being able to share my story for the past 18 years of my life is super cool, so I'm very happy to be here. I'm not really here to tell you a story about how I knew I was a boy, for my entire life, because I really didn't know. Figuring out I was transgender was a really long journey for me, and it's something that I tried to ignore for a lot of my life, but I did know very well that I liked girls. That came to me very age. It didn't take much for me to get that fuzzy feeling of nervousness in my chest the first time I liked a girl. The first time a girl I liked smiled at me. It was a feeling that was normal to me and nowhere in my mind did it feel wrong. I was only 7 years old when I heard for the first time that who I am and how I feel was wrong. The first girl I liked was my best friend for 3 years in first grade. In our free time at school, we took little pieces of paper and wrote each other little notes that said you're really pretty, or I love you.
easy to keep me entertained. I kept all these notes in my desk at school because they made me feel special and I wanted to keep them. But one day, our teacher found our notes and scolded us after school, saying that girls don't like girls and that what we were doing was really wrong. She really just took all of it out on us, saying it wasn't school appropriate for us to be acting that way around another girl. It was the first time I ever liked a girl, and the first time someone told me what I was doing was like wrong and not how things were supposed to be. Now, I won't lie, I was an adorable little girl. I mean, just look at that face. But as I'm sure my parents can confirm, I was never a little girl. Every day I was out in the yard playing soccer, basketball, baseball, and thankfully I had their support. In kindergarten there was a dance, and every girl had to wear a dress and every boy had to wear a suit. My mom went all the way up to the principal to demand that I would be able to wear what the boys wore. It's one of my favorite memories as a kid, and something that I look back on and I'm shocked that no one knew I was trans. But being different as a kid would not show itself to be something cool. I was bullied constantly for how I looked and how I acted. Given any chance, kids would push me into the asphalt while we played soccer because then it was an accident. All through elementary school, I had constant open wounds on my knees from being pushed on so often. After a while, like all of my jeans would split open at the knee. It was regular, like pushing, punching, being locked in bathrooms, being held down, having hot sauce poured down my throat because I don't like spicy things. And being called like every name in the book, having like balls thrown at my head, having different things poured on my head, like corn nuts, like that's not even creative. And people like steal my backpack, you name it, like everything, just because I was a girl that dressed like a boy. A day didn't go by where I was not like sitting in the health office being patched up. I remember distinctly that I never cried at school. I was beaten up, got my fingers sprained, I had multiple bruises constantly, but I never cried because I never wanted to show any weakness. But it's partly why I'm so closed off now and why I was so closed off for years. 6 years of constant torment. I worked so hard to be the kid my parents never had to worry about. So I never said anything about any of it. My parents spent a lot of time when I was younger taking care of my brothers because they really spoke up about what was going on. I know now it's something that they kind of feel guilty about but I kept it all hidden on purpose, and not everyone was trying to like dig deep into the thoughts of a 6-year-old. So just because like some parents don't notice that as a kid doesn't mean they're not perfect. Being treated like nothing for 6 years of my 12-year-old life really changed me. By 6th grade, I was depressed, I was suicidal, I developed an eating disorder, and I was self-harming. I hit the lowest point of my life at that time. I have never known loneliness like that. It's kind of an emptiness I can't even describe. Middle school was its own form of torture. As someone who was terribly self-conscious of their body, PE was my own hell. I always waited until everyone left the locker room so I could change because I was so self-conscious of how I looked. I mean, I did look like this, so who's to blame me? I'll give myself one thing, I had like gray hair, so that was something. It was like perfectly wavy. But that year in middle school, a girl older than me took an interest in me. I was in the 6th grade, by this time, pretty aware of my homosexuality. I was incredibly ashamed of it and never thought of telling anyone. This girl was definitely unapologetically herself. One day, I let it slip that I was gay, and little did I know this would be like my biggest mistake. I didn't know what I was getting into. It felt nice to not feel like I was being seen as an outsider for once in my life, but one day she waited until everyone left the locker room when I was changing, so it was just me and her. assaulted by her. I was only 12 years old. I hit an all-time low after a different girl took advantage of me for a few months the next year. I felt hopeless. I was suffering every day, and I felt so alone. It was my introduction into the LGBT world, and it didn't feel welcoming at all. And my mental health took over my life. It turned me into this weak, crippling figure of a person. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep. I was just awake, hating every second of my life. All of this caused many attempts of suicide in the span of the 7th grade. Because of this, I would join the 29% of LGBT plus kids that have attempted suicide and the 41% of transgender youth who have attempted suicide. I was close to jumping off the bridge, but one of my only close friends told me to get help and made me realize how much I was hurting her by doing these things to myself. I ended up going to a mental hospital for 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks saved my life, and even though it would be followed by years of work and trying to get better, I'm very thankful for it. I wouldn't be here speaking to any of you today if it weren't for that. Little did I know when I was going through that hard time that I would soon be sharing my story with hundreds of people all over the world. I finally completely came out of high school, thank God. Everyone already knew I was gay. I mean, I had like short blue dyed hair. It was just like the epitome of what like a gay teenager looked like. I joined my high school's GSA and was introduced to this new idea of gender. Even when people would ask me if I was a boy or a girl, I never really questioned my gender at all. But for the first time, I met someone who identified as non-binary and went by they, them pronouns, and they changed my whole view on gender. My GSA introduced me to a whole new world of the LGBT community that I had never seen before. It took me about 2 years to come out as transgender. The truth is, I didn't know I was trans for 15 years. I was never given the terminology to define how I was feeling. My entire life, I never identified with being a girl. For a couple years, I was comfortable saying sort of androgynous, but even then, I just felt so uncomfortable in my own skin. In the past 2 years, I've been able to find out who I really am. I came out as transgender about 8 months ago, and my life has changed in every single way. Finally hearing my name or someone referring to me, I don't feel this weird sense of uncomfortableness in my chest. That feeling that I've had my whole life that is something that just something isn't right has finally gone away. I can finally feel whole with who I am. Over the past couple of years in my GSA, I've been working constantly to have other kids be able to have the terminology and that I didn't have, and finding ways to make my school a safer place for kids to come and be themselves. My freshman year, I worked hard with fellow classmates and added an LGBT-specific unit to all of our health classes. And now I've done many other things like making different LGBT-related events at school, working to make a gender-neutral locker room on campus, and anything else to make kids feel safe on campus. Everything I do to help my community is to make sure no one else has to go through what I did. Everything that happened to me was brutal and terrible, but I see it as I went through it. But I see it as I went through it, so now the people that come after me don't have to. I don't wish anything that happened to me, even on my worst enemy, but I went through it so no one else has to. I'll be real with you guys. I'm not someone who's into school at all. It is definitely not my thing, and trust me, my grades will reflect that. But we all have to be here and go through it. Every kid on our age has to spend 12 years in the system. If we're going to be forced to be here, no matter if someone loves or hates school, it should be somewhere for kids to have a sense of safety and acceptance. People always tell me I'm brave for putting my heart on my sleeve, but people also worry that by making myself so vulnerable, I'm more likely to be hurt. And it's true. All of you know my weaknesses and details to some of the most horrific times in my life. So I even am in danger just for being openly transgender every day. So maybe it is being brave, maybe saying all of this and being up here is a sign of bravery, but stories here for the world to see. And I'll share it just in case there's a chance that what I say can help a kid feel comfortable in their own skin. I do it for every kid that has been told that something about them is wrong, for every kid who sat thinking that they are nothing, and every kid who thinks no one could love them for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, asexual, transgender, non-binary, pansexual, or anything. I am proof that someone in this world cares about you. Someone will miss you if you weren't here. Someone out there loves you, and loves you more than you could ever imagine. And you are surrounded by people who want to help. I'm walking proof that you can be beat down, assaulted, felt like you were worthless, felt like the only option is to die, and still be able to achieve happiness again. None of this is easy. We're all part of a group that has been ostracized, harassed for decades, but this is us. And even if it isn't relevant now, we will be stronger having gone through this, because it has changed my life, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for everything that I've gone through for the past couple of years. This is me. Thanks. I do have time for questions. I don't know if you guys have burning questions about everything about who I am, but you have literally any questions about what I do, anything. Now you know I'm an open book, so just any questions? Oh, yeah. Do you have a question?
Do you already have the gender neutral locker room at Aragon, or are you working on it?
So we're working on the spring semester, but now we have given opportunities to some of so our PE program is our freshman and sophomore year, but there's still sports throughout your 4 years. So what people have to do is they come up to me and they ask for a gender neutral locker room, and everyone has their own personalized combination. So to get into the locker room, so we have been able to give the few genderqueer students in their freshman and sophomore year access to the locker room, so they have finally been put into use. Any other questions? I guess that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James, for being brave enough to share your story. So I think we have a problem because we're supposed to have someone, we don't really know who our last speaker is. Arvana?
Sorry, I'm going to check back if we have some more.
Okay.
Oh, board.
Oh,
Okay, alright. Psych, I'm not going to do that to everyone today. Alright. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me or have forgotten me, I'm Arvana Kumar. I'm the Madam President here at the GSA at Mills. Alright. Okay, cool. Before I get started, I want to let you all know that I will be speaking of topics that might be triggering. Triggering of certain feelings. So, if you need a moment, please feel free to step aside, take a moment for yourself. There's tissue boxes. We just want to make sure everyone's accommodated for it. Okay. Okay, with that being said, I am feeling very nervous. Okay, so please cut me some slack.
You got this.
I feel the love. Thank you. So, hi everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Hanging in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, well, that's good. or American Pacific Islander. I work for the Millbrook Recreation Center. I'm known as Madam President. I identify myself as bisexual, and I knew that I liked girls at a very young age. Okay, I tend to be very active in our community. Theater and working with children are what I consider to be my life. I love to write and watch cheesy romantic movies when I have some downtime, which is very rare because I'm always working on something. My family and my culture are both very important to me, and my friends hold a very special place in my heart. With that being said, my family and culture are both very important. So let's begin by talking about my family. My family is made up of my mom, my grandmother, Nani, my younger brother, and my youngest and furriest of them all, my cat Mabel. My family is the memes that you see on Snapchat and Instagram about Desi/Indian/Asian parents. We are very traditional. My Nani tends to be the root of all our traditions, and my mom carries them out while teaching my brother and I about how things should be. Please keep in mind that I love my family dearly. Like I said, my culture is very important to me as well, and that my family is very traditional. We keep our beliefs and our religion very close to us. Though it is made clear that men in our culture hold the upper hand, while women are taught from early on that they're meant to raise a family and organize the household. An example would be the fact that my brother, he's 2 years younger than me. He can go out and hang out with his friends whenever he wants. And I tend to have to stay back and do my chores and think twice before I go out, any day. With that, marriage and one day having a family on our own is placed in an Indian daughter's life early on. We're told to make sure we know how to cook, clean, and provide to others so one day we can do that for our husbands and their families. Please keep in mind that this is how the Indian culture is formed. With that being said, you can see how being born here in America and living in the Bay Area has certainly made who I am and the way I think clash with my culture and the Asian/Indian community. Along with that fact that I wasn't born in my parents' motherland. I'm already considered to be a fake Indian because I'm not fully American or Indian enough. With that also brings up the fact that I'm also a part of the LGBTQ community as a bisexual American Fijian Indian. And that's tough because it makes me have to figure out where I stand in society because I feel like I'm not enough. And in the Indian Asian community, the LGBT community is already seen and said to be its own species. It doesn't make it easy to find a place, and it's considered a shame and a disease, which I sadly had to learn the hard way. I consider 2016 and 2017 to be the lowest moments in my life. It was certainly my fault. During this time, I was involved in a case as a rape victim. I had lost all my friends. My community could barely look at me because of what they were saying in the news articles. And to my family, I was considered a shame. I was trapped into this box involving news articles, police, and my family's reputation. I had no support whatsoever. I was just ashamed. I was constantly being told that I was the victim when the last thing I needed to hear was that, along with the fact that I needed to be fixed. I remember this clearly, and please keep this in mind that my mom is a wonderful person. We were arguing one day about what was going on in my life, and I asked why. Why is it so bad? What's wrong? Like, I understood what happened to me, and I understood how hard it was on her. But she answered saying that it wasn't the fact that this happened to you, it was the fact that it was a woman rather than a man. Those words I will forever remember. It brought up the question, was I ever broken that I needed to be fixed? Or was it the truth of who I truly was and am was right in front of me? Every part of my life was broken then. I was completely alone. Though they thought the best way to fix me was to send me to family therapy, individual because I felt uncomfortable talking about what happened and telling them what actually happened. I lived in fear and shame. Therapy in general, though it seems to be in the Asian and Indian community, as something that isn't talked about. It's used only when parents feel like their child is acting up or is broken and needs to be fixed, to follow the norms and culture again. It's not talked about because then this perfect image of this perfect Indian family is broken. No one talks about their feelings or problems. Everyone lives in this bubble. I was breaking this bubble for my family, and they just couldn't handle it. My life during this time had become a prison in which I no longer wished to live in. I had begun to hide who I truly was because I feared getting kicked out for not being accepted by my family, my mom specifically. I would go to school and then come back home. I would quietly do as my family wished because I felt like I owed them an apology for being who I truly am, and for having our family name be disrespected. I would hide away in my room, and on days I had therapy, I just spoke of all the trauma I faced and how I wished that my family could accept me for who I was, to forgive me for it all. I had faced sexual and emotional abuse, and the trauma that came along while having my family and community backlash did not help. I wanted to end it all, but that wasn't going to be easy. So I consider 2018/2019 my rise. Towards the end of 2017, I got my first job. I was a helper at a tutoring center. Working with children and teaching them about things that they were curious about helped me gain some self-worth. That's one part of my life that I keep near and dear to my heart. Working with children and going to therapy made me realize that it was going to be me that changed this one-track mind that my family had about the LGBTQ plus community. It was me who was going to show my family that who I am and what I do for them is something that they should recognize and be grateful for. I still had a lot of healing to do though, and honestly, even until today, I still process it all. The truth is that you're always going to be processing things and healing. So I focused on my job, my schoolwork, my family, theater. Through theater, I was able to express parts of me that I had closed off from this world. I worked hard and long. I was finally able to learn enough about the production process while gaining new friends and friends around me that loved me for who I truly was. And with that, I was lucky enough that this spring I was assistant director for Beauty Week. So I'm very grateful. Along with that, I got a new job, which I'm currently working at with children, and have been able to teach our youth to love each other for who we are. That there never should come a day that we laugh at one another for being different, and that they hold the power to be the change that's in this world. With that, I began to bring more awareness to the LGBTQ plus community here at Mills, and our community, especially to my family. I feel like no child should ever have to feel like they have to apologize for who they are or hide a beautiful part about themselves, especially someone that keeps them happy. It's all still an ongoing battle, but little things like this event or trying to talk about things that are uncomfortable are what I consider a step in the right direction. Though my family isn't completely aware and supportive of who I am, I continue to live my life the best I can. It's sad that the Asian/Indian community finds the LGBTQ plus community unacceptable. And within our community here at Mills and outside, it's still considered an uncomfortable thought. But since those times are changing and key mental issues are forming that we should be aware of, like here in anxiety, mood-related issues like depression, lower sense of self, and we have to be more aware of these things because our community is not as aware as they should be. But they should be, and that resources around us can prevent such factors. This what all you can and should do. As students, the ones hiding in those chairs right now, I see you all. You can be more aware and supportive of members of the LGBTQ plus community and be mindful of certain words that you use to describe someone or another. Become an ally, join the GSA, because without a GSA or clubs like GSA, there wouldn't be a place that provides safe spaces for individuals to get the support and acceptance that they deserve. As professionals, many of you can use psychoeducation and teach parents about how the brain develops and changes over time, how trauma has an effect on the brain development, and how growing in a supportive environment is much needed. We also need more health professionals from the Asian/Indian community to represent the LGBTQ plus community, because this will allow more members in those communities to be willing to communicate with one another. Oh, sorry. Okay. Lastly, as a community, we can become more aware of the LGBTQ plus community and advocate for equality among all. Provide safe environments in which all can freely live. Advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. Advocate for LGBTQ plus history to be taught in schools, as well as safe sex for same-sex couples during sex education. Begin to make sure no child has to live the rest of their lives being someone they aren't to satisfy others. And to take another step in the right direction as a community, either as an ally or a member of the community. It's not going to be easy, but let's be the change that is needed in this world right now. It's not abnormal, it's not a disease, it's not a shame, it's who you are. And for me, it's my truth. I'm proud of who I am and what I am. I love myself very much. And for the first time in a long time, I'm happy with my life. I know the battle ahead isn't easy, but with organizing events like this and having you all come out to learn more, I know that we're heading in the right direction. After all, we all individually hold the change to this world. Thank you. That's fine. Any questions now? Okay. Let's go next.
Thank you so much, Arpana, for being so great I think there's a lot that we can do, especially for our Indian Asian community and LGBTQ plus community here at Mills, moving forward. Thank you so much, everyone who came out here today to hear stories. We'd like to thank our speakers once again. So let's give everyone another round of applause. And to everyone who made this event possible today.
Special shout outs to our assistant principal, Ms. Schlax.
I would love to step in right now, actually, since you mentioned it. For all of you who don't know, about a month ago or so, the San Mateo Union High School District Board of Education honored some of the leaders in our school district, in our GSAs, and who are doing LGBT advocacy. And our own Arpana was one of those honorees. So, on behalf of the district, I'm presenting to you a certificate signed by our superintendent and our board president that it says the San Mateo Union High School District recognizes Arpana Kumar of Mills High School for leadership in LGBTQ plus supportive groups.
Yeah!
Ms. Kaczynski wanted to be here too to share her appreciation for all your work. So I'm conveying from all of the admin team, from all of the educators here, and myself. It has been such a pleasure working with you this year. And my first year as an AP, and you have been an absolute highlight, and your advocacy is making a difference here at Mills. And will be felt much further once you leave us.
Thank you. Well, let's continue. Ms. Dzinski, our principal, who sadly isn't here, for always pushing us forward. Ms. Kovacs, for being the best GSA advisor.
What she really means is that I just like sat back and she did all the work, and then I like sent some emails. All right. So without the students, this would not be possible. Like I said, really, they took the wheel, and I was just kind of a passenger. Like, yeah, this sounds great. Let's do it. So thank you to Megan Bueno for always being ready to run around and make sure the job gets done here. And of course, to our Madam President, Arpana Kumar, for being the core to this event and moving forward, getting everything organized. Thank you all.
Please take part in today's silence for those in the LGBTQ plus community who have remained quiet when they were bullied or harassed. For students that want to get extra credit, please turn in your worksheets before you leave. Other than that, thank you everyone. If you have any more questions, please feel free to meet up with any of our speakers. They are all around, and they will be happy to answer your questions.
Have a great night, everybody.